Now, there is what we refer to as storytelling. Now, in storytelling, you are trying to communicate information about the data to an uninformed person so that they can use that to make a decision. Now, when you're doing that, what we try to do is we start off with a mock-up. Now, that mock-up is like a wireframe that you would use to build a template. Now, I would liken it to like an architect, that where you see someone wants to build a house, they don't just go into the building and start building. What they would usually do is they would try to put a structure to say, okay, this is where we want the kitchen to be, this is where we want the living room to be, this is where we want the toilets to be, these are how many floors we want this apartment to be like. And that's the same thing that applies when you are trying to put your data visualization together. It's important, put your thoughts together, put it into paper and say, what do I want to do? Now, what I would do, the next thing I can then do is this. I'm going to use Chatgpt and say, okay, based on, I'm going to create that, but I want to just show us something. And I take these headers and say, okay, based on these headers that you have here, let's come back to Chatgpt and say, based on the row headers below, what are some insights that would be helpful for decision making? Okay. Then I would also say what charts. Okay, let me put that. That's question one. And then what type of charts can be used to visualize this insight? Okay, all right. So I've gotten the two of them together. No worries. Let me take this one out. I don't want the pictures in. All right, and I drop that in. Now, so it says, given the row headers, we can extract insights, blah, blah, blah. It goes through all the different things. And then it's giving me some things that I can work with in the data sets. Okay, fantastic. So it's still giving me a few things. And then what we are going to do, all right, great stuff here. Okay, and I would then start taking it. So the first one is saying that top performing books. That's one. It gives you average listening time. It also suggests release date trends. It says language. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to try and put this into my layout. And I would say, let me start off with the release date trends because I'd already done something similar. So I'll create a new template, new slide. Okay, and then let me take this out. Now, usually when building your dashboard, there are two ways to do it. You would have an overview, and then you have your detailed page. I'm going to do more like an overview. Now, that overview would have some key KPIs that when someone looks at it, they can use it to gain, they can just have a glance and say, this is what we think. And most times, it's usually when you're doing that, as we know, we read from left to right. So I'll try and put the KPI on the head. So let's say we want a count. Let me come back to this. We've said, let me just look for some of them. Release dates, top performing books. Okay, so if I look at my headers, come back here, I have names. So I would say names of books, so or number of books. So let me say number of books as one header. Number. Okay, sorry. Before I do that, let me see. I'll do number of books, number of authors, number of narrators. Let me see. I'll do the number of languages, average star, and then average ratings. Okay, so let's put that. So I would take, this is the first one. Then we'll copy this. Sorry, usually try and make this a bit, it's not so rounded. Okay. Okay, so we'll take these two, copy and paste. Okay, and then we do the same thing for the last set. And then what I will just do is align all of this horizontally, distribute horizontally. Let me see, I think middle. Yeah, fine. So this is well aligned. So I just need to put my titles here. So this is a number of books. You have a number of narrators. You have number of what else again was here? Number of narrators, number of authors. Okay. Then I said the what's the other one? Then the okay, number of languages. Number of languages. Then maybe I could do average price. Average price. And then finally, let me do average rating. Okay. All right. So I've gotten my headers first of all, and then I would create my trend. So let's say I want to do a trend of the release date. So let's see what it has suggested. It said a release date trends. All right. So this will be my release date trends. Release date trends. Okay. All right. So I have that all done there. Let me see. It doesn't look like. Okay. Okay. And then the next one I would be doing, I need to split this out. I think I'll do a bit here. There are different ways you can lay this out. I'm just using this as my own, as we call it, mock-up, as I said. All right, so the one I want to do is top performing books. So I want to get the top performing books. Now, one other thing I would top performing books. One of the things I would also advise is always put the most important information at the top. Now, the question we would ask is release date trends, is it an important information or is it a nice to know information? If it's not an important information, then maybe alternatively, I can take my top performing books to the top and move my release trends to the bottom, because what we want to know is, okay, what really are the top performing books in this selection? Then the next one, let's say I have top performing books based on stars, based on ratings, and then based on price. Okay. So let me replicate that across board to say, I'll just do the three so we don't take too much time in this instance. Okay, so let's see. There's still a lot of space here. Which other charts do I want to release? Date trend, language preference, analyze which languages are most popular. Okay, that's a more detailed chart. Okay, we'll just work with this in the meantime anyway. I would use this. I would use this. Okay. And then I would use this here. And again, I would try to align everything here. Just align, distribute evenly. Okay, just to be sure that it's evenly distributed, because even though your eyes do not see it, unconsciously you see a lot of white space, and that can be distracting when you are looking at something. All right, so I've gotten that there. And then the last thing I want to include would be I would say a filter column. So I would add this to say, now the reason why I'm putting the filter is it gives the user the functionality or the choice to say, how do I want to dimension this data? What are the parameters that I can use when I'm looking at this data set? So I'll take this one. So let's say this filter would be year. Okay. And then this filter would be, say, let's say narrator, or let's say book. That might not be very helpful, but well, it's just for illustration purpose. And then I will take this to be, let's say, language. Okay. All right. So I won't make this too complicated anyway. This should work for a start. All right. Okay, fantastic. All right. So I think we're all done here for a start. There's a lot of white space by the side, but we'll sort that out when we do that. And then all I simply do is save this as my template. Let me save this here. I'll just save this as template, or let me just say audible template. Audible template. Okay. And then please change this to JPEG because that's the format it will recognize in Power BI, either JPEG or PNG. All right, so I'm saving this as PNG first of all, and just that particular slide. So I've exported this as a background, and then I come over to Power BI. So I would create a second sheet, and then let's come here. Now, please note that the essence of all this that we're doing is to help whoever is the decision maker easily make that decision, because you've done the hard work of cleaning the data. The person isn't so interested in the data cleansing part. What the person is interested in, how do I make decisions? And from usually what we know is that when people look at data, pictures, they say a picture says 1,000 words, so you don't have to explain a lot. It makes it easy for you to hit home and the person understands what you are trying to communicate. Now, for one who is not very savvy or very competent with all these data analytics tools, it's a case of practice, and obviously you will get better. I said Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to get the clean data. And how do I do that? Now, when you look at Power BI, you have the report view, the table view, and then the model view. The report view is this part that shows us our visual where we are preparing our reports. The table view will show us the tables that we've imported into Power BI, and then the data modeling view is where you need to create a relationship in instances where there are multiple tables. One of the things that you might need to learn to be very efficient with Power BI is what we call data analysis expression, DAX, which I've included here, but it's not everyone that needs it. So don't let that scare you. All right, so to get the data in, what I simply would do is get data, and then I look at what are the options. Now, interestingly, Power BI has various data sources that you can connect to. If I wanted to connect to the web to get data, all I simply would do is get the URL, the web link, and then use that. But in this instance, we are using a text or a CSV file, comma separated value file. So I'm going to use that, which is how the clean data is. Let me just get this here. Okay, so this is the clean data, and I'm going to open the clean data. Now, what I'm doing is what we refer to, they call it ETL, extract, transform, and load. Yeah, I'll take that again. Extract, transform, and load. That's what is referred to. So I've extracted the data from the data source. I've loaded it into the Power BI environment. And then the next thing, I can either just finally load it, or I want to transform. So I want to transform it before I load into the Power BI environment. So I'm going to do transform. Now, when I click on transform, the as we call it, the data engine in Power BI is what we refer to as Power Query. It's also in Excel. So sometimes if you are familiar with Power Query in Excel, you can easily do the same thing in Power BI. So basically, the essence of transforming is if I wanted to do some separations or like some data cleansing, which I could not, which maybe I didn't do in Excel, or I felt that why waste my time doing it in Excel? I can do it here. You can also accomplish that in this instance as well, where you can change, like here, if it's, you can change this to proper, capitalize the first letter. You can split the number of what they call this, the number of authors or narrators, because I know that when I looked at the data set, there are some instances where you have like all these commas will tell you that there is more than one narrator. But for the purpose of this illustration, we'll leave it as it is. Okay, now once I've gone through it and I'm happy with it, one of the things you will see is if you come to the view data source here. Okay, yep. Now, if you view it here, you will see a column distribution, show white spacing, column quality. So the column quality tells you if there are any errors or any empty spaces in your data. So I can see that, yes, this is 100% valid, no errors, and there is nothing empty. And that's the same thing across board for all the columns here. 100%, no errors, nothing is empty. So this looks like a pretty good data set, right? Then what I simply would do is to close and apply. If I had done any changes here, I would do close and apply. But in this instance, I've not made any updates in it. So I just simply close this, and it should be loaded in. Sure, wait, let's see. It's sorry, let me check if it's loading it, or I think I didn't. Okay, sorry. I think I need to close and apply. Let me do that again. So let me pull that file here. Let's see. Is it? I can see that there's an error message. Let me be sure that it's not. Okay, so it's still pending. So let me delete this one. All right. I'll delete this. And then I will just do close and apply instead. Apply changes. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right, so it's applying the changes. There was an earlier session around 4 to 5, so that's why you see that there are two files there, but you actually don't need, I only just need one. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to use this other one, not this one. Now, if you go to the table view, you will see the values of each of the columns in the data set that I have pulled in from the CSV file. And then you would see the two tables here. So if I wanted to create a relationship between these two tables, I can do that. Usually you would have the most common type of relationship is a one-to-many relationship, which I'm not using in this instance anyway. So I'll come back to my file here. And then, as I said, I've done a mockup. So the first thing I'll do is I'll pull in that mockup into this environment as the canvas background, so that way it will guide me when I'm building my visual. So I think this should be it. Yeah, audible template. Yep. Okay, so it's for now, it's 100% transparent. So I'm going to remove the transparency, and here you have it. So this will now serve as a guide when I'm going to be putting each of the visuals or the cards into my report that I'm putting together. Okay, and let's see how we're doing with time. All right, so hopefully in 10 minutes it should be done. I may not necessarily finish everything, but I would try to cover a good extent of this. All right, so let's give that a go. And then the first thing here, so there are different suggestions when you're building. And what we're going to use here, we would use a KPI card. So the KPI card, if you click on it, you'll see a card. There's also a new one that Power BI included, I think sometime last year, where you could add pictures. It gives a level of animation to your visual. And that's something that you could spend a full session trying to work on and highlight so that people see the power of that card in Power BI. But I'll use this one for now, which is the card. I just pull that in here. Okay, so I'm using this as a frame, so I don't need to, I'll make a few edits very soon anyway. Okay, so this is what it looks like here. Okay. Okay, so let's see. All right, so I think that's fine. And then what do I want to do? I said that, let me check my other. So this is number of books. So since it's number of books, all I simply need to do is come back here. This is the table here. The number of books is based on the name. So I would put this here, which is, it gives me first name, but instead I would need to change this to count distinct. Now, I could ordinarily do this with a function, but I don't want to make things complicated by writing DAX functions. So I will just use this easy option here, which is, so it's going to count the distinct number of authors or number of books in it. So here I can see I need to use the formatting tool. So all I need to do here is change this, because this is size 45. So I change this to 18. Okay, and then you see here it has the count of name at the bottom. I can leave it that way, or I can edit the count name. In this instance, I would want to edit it. So you can edit it here because this is what is referencing, count of name. Or I can remove. So I'll remove it first of all, and then I'm going to hard code the title to say number of books. Okay, all right, so number of books is now a title. I'll put that up. I can put a divider just to make it look good. And then what do I want to do on the title? Maybe I want to add a background color just to give it a bit of a nice feel for the user when they are looking at it. And I think we are almost there. Then the other thing I want to do is to just change the format a bit. So I'm going to change the visual borders, give it a bit of a border, change the borders to gray. and then I would round out the edges of the box, add a bit of a shadow to this. Let's see what the shadow, let's make the shadow a bit, let's say gray. Let's see what that would look like. Okay. All right. So that's about it. And I'm done with this. And I copy that over here. Let me see. This looks like I didn't get the visual borders. Did I? Okay, I did. Okay. Anyways, I'm sure we'll see that when I remove that from the background. All right. So here we have it. And then all I need to do here is to change this. This is a number of narrators. So I come here and then I click on this name. So I change this to narrator. It gives me the hard one. Then I change it to count distinct. So we have 29 narrators. I copy this again. So the only thing I need to do is change the header because the header is hard coded. Okay. Title is a number of narrators. Okay. All right. Got that. And then this one we said is a number of authors. So I will simply do the same thing, come here, change this to author, and then do a count distinct. Please note, as I said, you can actually do all of this with a DAX query, but you need to have, first of all, write all of that, which we might not have the time to do that in this session. So number of authors. Okay, number of authors. We have that there. And then the next thing, I want to do the number of languages. Number of languages. Then I change this here to language. Count the distinct number of languages. Okay, and I do the same thing for the average price. So I'll change this column to price, then get the average for the price. Okay. The other thing I may want to do is change the format because here it's showing as whole number. I just add a, so I clicked on, what I did was to click on that particular column and then it gives me the column tool and then I just put a comma here. So it will try to change the format. Why is it not changing the format? So let me see, what is that format? Supposed to be chorus. Let me see. Okay, so okay. All right. Okay, I think I see. So that's average price is that. So I'll just change that to average price. And then the last item here is the ratings. Um, I hope we're keeping to time. I think we have just around 5 minutes to go, and I will see how far we can go with this. Okay, so I will change this to the ratings here. And then I will do the same thing for the rating, average rating. All right. And there we have it for that. The next thing I want to do is I want to include the release trends. So I do a line chart because if you are doing a trend, trends are usually line charts. So I'll do a trend with this. Okay. And then I bring this here as the trend. The year of release has already created the hierarchical structure. I'll put that on the x-axis, and then I will do the name, which is the y-axis as a count. All right, so automatically we can see the count of how many books were released based on the year. And then the other thing I'll just do quickly is to clean up this to say, all right, I don't want to see all these grid lines. So let's say for the x-axis, for the y-axis, I can remove the title on the y-axis, possibly also remove the values on the y-axis. Then data label, I can include the data label. I think that's fine. Then I think it's just to change the arrangement of the data label position. I'll put it above. Okay, so you can see it clearly. Then the next thing I would want to do on this would be, do I need to change the name title? Okay, I can change the title to be trend of books released. Okay. Okay, and then I put that across at the center. The other one, let's say the grid lines. So you can remove the grid lines, so remove the vertical grid lines to make it look clean. Okay, and then the last thing I need to do is just to format it a bit in terms of the visual border, put the visual border, make it gray like I did the other one, make the shape a bit rounded, and then add a slight shadow to it as well, just to give it a bit of an effect. Okay, and there we have that all done. All right, and then the last two will just be bar charts. So I'll do that quickly for the bar charts. As I said, some of these things could be done using the DAX function because there are a few things I'll just do quickly here. All right, so here I would, let's include this. Okay, all right, so I just need to get the, let's see where we are. We said top performing books. So top performing books. So let me get the name. Then the, so this is the name here. And then I also want to get a count. So, yep, so I'll get a count here. Yep, all right. And then the other thing we want to do here would be to say, let's see here. We want to do a filter. So there's a filter function here. And what we want is the top 10. So I come here equals to, so not this one, sorry, should be this one. So the name. So the basic filter, top N. This is also something you can write with DAX. So I say I want the top 5. So the top 5 names based on count. And then I apply. Okay, let's see. One, two, like it hasn't. Let me see. I need to check. So this is okay. So bear with me. Let me just validate that again. Okay, so the top 10 is done that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is there? Okay. Okay, so let's change this to 5 and see how that goes. Okay, it should apply that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll check that, but because of time, I don't want to overspill because we've already spent quite some time. Right, so on the x-axis, I will take out the title. I will also take out the value. What I can do on this would be to set up the data label, and that's fine. And we can work with that. Same thing for this. I would put this here as well. Instead, I will just change this to the, so I'll change this to the narrator, and then I will change this to, instead of count of name, I will change this to ratings. And then let me see if I do the average. Let's see. All right, so I've done this based on average, top 5 counts by name. So I don't want this. Instead, I'm going to take the ratings and then change this to the average, okay, and then apply that. All right, so I've gotten the top 5 based on the average rating, and then the last one I'm going to do here, which would be, so let's see, so we'll do a count of the languages. So let's say we want to do languages, and we change this to language, and then change this to so let me even do language and then counts. Let's see. So English seems to be the highest, but English is not the only one here. Why is this? Oh, okay, because I have this filter up here. So let me remove this. Okay. So this is, I don't want to count distinct. Instead, I just want to do a count. Okay, so we can see that English has the highest. And then if I change this to the top 5, okay, and then I then change this to language. Sorry, put this here to language by count, and then do the top 5, and I think we should be good here. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, all right, so we see we have all of that there. For the sake of time, I might not delve too much. So what I'll do now is I'll remove the background, which I've used initially to create my wireframe, and this is what we have here. All I will simply do is give it a bit of a color, depends on what you want anyway. It's left to the person developing the report to decide what, but this is just an idea of what it would look like. So with this one now, I've created a, say a mock-up. The filters which are going by the side, I can put that there. Let me just see, bear with me. We should be, I'll just put one filter for the purpose of this exercise. So this is one filter, and then I will put the year filter in this here. Where is this? Let's just put the year in it. And then you can see it's a change. So I need to adjust the setting. So I'll do slicer setting, change this to drop down. Okay, all right. And we are good here. So this is all we have. So we have the different dates. So if I change that there, you can see it adjusts my slide, my reports. If I change this here, it adjusts my report. But because this is a trend, that's why it's only showing one. So I can clean that off and reset it back. You can add a number of other things to make your report look better, or you could still decide to retain that mock-up wireframe that we had initially created, which is what sometimes people do to give their report a better look and feel. But ultimately, this is what you would have. Now, what I can do with this is I can take this report, I can take a screenshot of this, take it back to ChatGPT and say, okay, I've developed this report. What do you think are the improvements that I can make on this report to help me enhance it for the end users? For the end user that will be interacting with it. Normally, it will take more than just this session, but at least in a nutshell, this is just to give you an idea of how you start from cleansing the data, working with ChatGPT to help you cleanse the data, putting the right type of prompts there, and then eventually coming into creating your data story, like your mock-up that you would use as a background for your reports, and then ultimately coming into Power BI. There's a lot that we can still do in Power BI, but due to how much time we have, we would have to stop it here.